So this past week and weekend has been quite interesting. In my latest video, I mentioned that we should expect a major shift. And when I say shift, I mean a change. This could be in the form of government policy changes. It could come in the form of an event that sets off a chain reaction of events. How many of you were paying attention to all the signs last week? A solar flare, the auroras, the volcanic eruptions, a strange UN short film, a meeting with the Pope. You know why you meet with the Pope? So you can get permission to do something. So a dinosaur walks into a UN assembly hall. No, this is not the opening of a joke. If you didn't know, there was a short film released by the UN recently called Don't Choose Extinction, where a CGI dinosaur walks into the UN General Assembly Hall to speak on climate change. Days ahead of the COP26 UN Climate Change Conference that started on Halloween and ends Friday. How ritualistic and occultish is the UN anyway? A topic for another discussion, but there are no coincidences here. No, this wasn't made for kids. Ain't no kids sitting around watching the UN assembly. Name one. And I have mentioned this before. This is something they like to do when they want to send out subtle messages or warnings. So there is much more to this than what is on the surface, of course. It seems that we are going to have some challenges ahead of us as they are preparing for something. Something is going to happen. And I think that something may come from the sky. I think these days we want to be as vigilant as possible, especially now moving into the winter. As prophecy revealed that these things would happen, we are getting closer to another paradigm shift. I know there are a lot of you who feel you have been through enough changes in your life already. Unfortunately, we have entered a period of unrest. Soon the sky, the heavens will open up to reveal the incoming change to our reality. U.S. states where northern lights may be seen this weekend after solar flare. So let me tell you what is happening here, guys. They are getting you ready. Strong auroras likely all weekend in northern U.S. states as geomagnetic storm strikes on equinox. This was back in March of this year. Northern lights spotted over western Washington. This was back in April of this year. Auroras expected tonight in New York, Washington, and Wisconsin as solar storm barrels toward Earth. This was back in September of this year. Now understand that the northern lights do take a dip a bit south now and then, but for the most part, you would normally have to be in northern Canada or Alaska to see them regularly. And even if you do live far enough north in the United States to see the northern lights as it dips south, not a whole lot of people have seen the auroras yet. Weather conditions, visual obstructions, daylight, these things are in people's way right now, but they will see it soon enough. Oh, the aurora, so beautiful, so lovely. It was a magnificent sight. That's radiation ionizing the air. Apparently, the sun has been pummeling us with radiation all year. just straight blasting us with strong, powerful, deadly radiation. Let's call it for what it is. Solar flare, CMEs, it's deadly radiation. It's strong, charged radiation that absolutely 100% affects natural events and changes on and in the earth. That means volcanoes, earthquakes, storms, and everything else, including biological life forms. So by now, you should be seeing this pattern. Big blast from the sun, pretty lights in the sky. Big blast from the sun, pretty lights in the sky, big shaking in the ground. Big blast from the sun, pretty lights in the sky, big shaking in the ground, ground erupts. And all there is in between all that are storms. Crazy lightning storms, come to mention it. So even if you haven't seen these lights in the sky, they are preparing you. So when you do see them, it will be a normal thing by that time. But do not fear these things, folks. Do not. Be aware of what's happening. You know, there's pumice coming out of Japanese waters due to volcanism. All these things going on. What a perfect time for a climate change conference. And the key word there is change. I can't wait to see what comes out of this thing. Do you think for 1 second they're going to blame the sun for any of this? Like I just did? Please. Look, you can go back, way back in my old videos, where I say that this was going to happen with these auroras. And that would be a major sign of earth changes. And the only reason people are going to discover this truth is because of the patterns. People are going to start putting all these things together over time. But there ain't much time left. The earth just can't take in radiation. It has to release it in the form of earthquakes, magma vents. It's just the way things are. And if you figure the sun is playing a major role in what is happening, what is causing the sun to behave this way? It's not us. We didn't do anything to the sun. It's not the planets affecting the sun. It's not asteroids or any other object hitting the sun to make it act up. So what is it? What force would be strong enough, powerful enough, big enough to affect the weather of the sun? Of course, God, but other stars, right? But you also have cosmic radiation, which is coming from these other stars, especially when they explode or implode. That energy released does affect our sun. Particles coming from a different part of space-time. And see, these particles don't all travel at the same speed. So that's why they'll use facilities like CERN to find out what particles come out of something like a star explosion, so that we know what particles to expect first, and so on. And I believe the neutrino is the first arriving particle. You shouldn't even be able to detect them, but if you expect to have a major increase of incoming particles, and therefore an increase in incoming neutrinos, then if you build a large enough detector like the one at Fermilab, you may pick up a neutrino or two, because the odds are greater. They called it the Dune experiment. This is a cycle they are not preparing you for. In fact, you should see by now that they only want the worst for you. Take a look at what they are putting you through right now. Go outside into society and take a good look at what they are doing. Yeah, I'll take a cheeseburger, a large order of fries, and some of that juice. So yeah, just go ahead and take this remedy and see how you feel in the morning. Take 2 and see how you feel. Take 3, 4, 5, just juice and boost it up, baby. Shh, sleep now. Just sleep. It will all be over soon. This is what's happening. right in front of you, right now. Children from the ages of 5 to 11 are now approved to be experimented on as of last week. Coincidence? I think not. I keep telling you that these people absolutely love rituals. They live by them. And this is no different. And what makes these rituals powerful is your participation, believe it or not. It's a gathering. This is a very active harvest season. You know, when I say rituals, I'm not talking about dark robe ceremonies with candles and witchcraft. This is influence from dark forces at the very top to create events of worship and efforts to defile us again. Those fallen beings came down to defile women, to defile men, and the creatures of the earth. They don't change what they do. They always do the same things over and over again. Why? Because these methods always work. If they want to get you to take something in spite of what you believe, then they can get you to get your children to take it as well. And it breaks my heart. But I'll leave that alone for now. But folks, this is all on purpose. The timing of all this is planned. And see, the hard part about all this is to see what this is all leading up to. It's almost as if, and this is the scary part, it seems like they are trying to create a society that is suited for a much smaller population. They don't expect everyone to make it, whether they are going on this based on prophecy or they just know. Look, meteors are going to hit the earth. I'm not telling you this. They keep telling you this. It's actually been happening already, and it is going to take an event, which is probably just right around the corner, to demonstrate to the world what we are all about to face when we hear the term meteor storm. The ash, my goodness, the ash is coming. You know, I thought we were maybe going to enter an era that was mask-free. But you might as well keep those masks on, because here comes the dust, or ash, I should say. It's already becoming a smoky planet, right? Next comes the ash. And that stuff is a mess. Ask the people who live next to these eruptions. And this stuff drifts across regions. And this is a slow burn, folks. It is such a slow burn. You are witnessing and living through a collapse. Those of you old enough to remember the 90s, completely different place, right? It's happening again. Things are changing. And we are beginning to live in a completely different place than the world we lived in just say a few years ago. Look at the food prices. Go into the grocery store and see how they just keep spreading out the inventory. They just keep spreading the same item across the entire shelf. They took one cow and spread it across the shelf to make it look like they have all this meat. But they don't. And it just sits there because it's more money than what it's worth now. This is why they have to start vacuum sealing more of the meat products now. You've noticed this trend, right? The produce department isn't any better. They figured out a way to fool you into thinking they have all this food, but when you look closer, the variety is just not there anymore. And this will never end until all food brands become one. See, before we used to have options, and so we had more power over companies because we could choose what brands to buy and what companies to support. But those options are dwindling, and that power is being simply taken away as there aren't many options these days in each category of food. Those who ignore this are going to find it extremely expensive to eat healthy. Now I want to go back to these meteors, these fireballs, these asteroids, these flybys. This month there are at least 4 that I know of that will be flybys around 4 to 7 million kilometers away. some pyramid of Giza-sized asteroids. Those are the ones that I found out about on the fly. There are more, and if you were to sit down and list out all the names of these asteroids, you would see there are a lot more than what we think is being reported. Now, just in case you're a skeptic or think this is fear-mongering, meteorite crashes through roof of Canada woman's home and onto bed. This article was dated October 14th, 2021. A woman in Canada awoke in shock earlier this week when a rock crashed through the ceiling of her home and landed on her bed, narrowly missing her but spraying grit and other debris in her face as her dog barked frantically. So there was a meteor shower over the town this woman lives in that night, and here's something that I don't think many people have considered regarding this. This is not a wrong place at the wrong time scenario. This has to do with an increase in debris falling to the earth. And when it gets to the point to where we are having meteor storms instead of showers, there will be an increase in meteorite crashes. Some of this debris will be on fire, and so that may start fires when they hit buildings, homes, and forests. Aside from that, the major challenge we will face is the time frame. Because once it starts, it's not just going to stop in a day. We don't know how long it could last. Imagine the amount of stress, the anxiety people will face if they think that at any moment they could be struck or their home could be struck by falling debris. How are you going to sleep in your bed without a roof made of steel in those days? I have some updates this week concerning the experiment. Very important. So I want everyone to stay tuned for that. It probably won't be up here on YouTube, but it will be up on the website. I will upload a short clip of that update so that you all know when it's available. There is more to come, folks. I just wanted to give you a short report about the recent happenings around us and a bit of heads up on what's coming down the line. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, hang in there. And as always, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.